digestive system. So let's start with another human system called the digestive system. So first you need to know about the certain important definitions related to the digestive system, that what is digestion first, and what is absorption and what is assimilation. So first, digestion is a process of in which the human system or the digestive system break down bigger particles into simple and smaller components with the help of enzymes, and this process is called as the digestion. So digestion means the breakdown of bigger components into the simpler ones. But before that definition, you should know the need behind the process of digestion, why we need to have a digestive system. You know that humans and other living organisms, they need energy to carry out all the basic functions of life, to carry out all the metabolism and chemical reactions which are going on within our life, within our bodies. They need energy for that purpose, and that energy came from two sources. The first is the food, and the second is the oxygen. You know that oxygen came from the air with the help of respiratory system. And now the second component, and that is food, it came from the outside, because we are dependent on other organisms for our food. Okay, here we go once again. I'm sorry, it's an interruption from my side, and I am going to share the screen once again. Okay, so it's a breakdown. The digestive system is the breakdown of bigger components into the simpler components with the help of enzymes. The need of having a digestive system is because we need energy, and it came from two sources, as I told earlier. One from the food, and the other partner is oxygen. The food which we eat, we are dependent on other organisms for our food. We eat plants, we eat other animals, and the bodies of the plants and animals are made up of big molecules, macromolecules. And there is no way that our body or our cells, that our bodies or our cells can absorb those big molecules to utilize them for the process of producing energy. So we need to break down those bigger molecules present in the bodies of other plants and animals into simpler components, so our bodies can absorb them and can utilize them to produce energy. We have already studied that stuff in a little bit different way, because life is made up of big molecules. If you can remember, carbohydrates, proteins, and the fats, those big macromolecules are the major ingredients present in the bodies of other organisms, like plants and like animals. So when we eat plants or when we eat animals, we are eating the macromolecules present in the bodies of plants and animals. The next thing is that we need to break down those macromolecules into simpler components, into micromolecules, so our body should be able to absorb them. Our body should be able to utilize them for the process of energy production. So from here we can generate another definition of digestive system, that it is the conversion of macromolecules into micromolecules with the help of enzymes. Remember, the term enzyme is there because we cannot chemically destroy the macromolecules or the big molecules into simpler ones without the assistance of those enzymes. And this process consists of two types of mechanism. The first one mechanism is mechanical. So we break down the food mechanically, like we chew the food with the help of teeth. We try to break down the food particles. With the action of the stomach contracts and relaxes to help to break down the food into simpler components. That's the one way. It is called mechanical digestion. The other way of digestion is called chemical digestion, in which we chemically destroy is not a good word, we chemically break down the macromolecules into simpler one with the help of enzymes. If you know the ingredients of life, you should know what will be the products of chemical digestion of food particles. For example, if the food is made up of carbohydrates, then after the digestion it will be converted into simple carbohydrates like glucose and other members of simple carbohydrates like glucose, fructose, but glucose is good enough to remember. If we are eating proteins, so after the digestion, the proteins will be converted into simpler components like amino acids, because proteins are made up of amino acids. If we are eating lipids, means fats or oils, those will be converted into simpler components called fatty acids and glycerol, because the fats are made up of fatty acids and glycerols. So in digestion, the big molecules are converted into the simpler components, so we can absorb them into the blood and then later utilize them, which is called assimilation. We are able to utilize them to produce energy or produce the building blocks of our own bodies. So we are depending on food for two purposes. The first purpose is to produce energy, and the second purpose is to get the ingredients of life so that it can be used to prepare our own bodies. It can be used to prepare, to be used in construction process ongoing in different parts of our bodies. It is a little bit, tricky to understand that if you are eating protein, if you are eating meat, तो गोश्त खा रहे हैं, गोश्त बन जाएगा. It's not like that. If you are eating meat like from the chicken, the meat of the chicken is made up of protein. The answer is yes. Your body structure, your muscles are made up of protein. The answer is yes. But the chicken meat is different from the meat of your own body because these two are different proteins. Although they are made up of same amino acids, but the sequence of the amino acids and nature of the amino acids are different. That's why they are different proteins. So when we eat chicken meat, it goes into our digestive system. Our digestive system converts the proteins present in the meat into amino acids, then absorb the amino acids and then utilize them. Now the amino acids can be utilized for various purposes, like to execute different functions in our bodies we need proteins. So those proteins can be created using those amino acids. Your muscles are made up of proteins. Those proteins can be created using those amino acids. So whatever the products of amino acids will be after the digestion, whatever the products of proteins, whatever the products of proteins will be, and the products of proteins are the amino acids, will rejoin once again in our bodies to create the proteins which belongs to our own structure, which belongs to humans. That's why we need food to generate energy, as well as to get the raw material to create different molecules of life. The first thing you need to know, first thing first, how many different organs are there in our digestive system? Actually, digestive system is a tube. It's a tube-like structure. It starts from the mouth. It ends at the anus. It's a tube-like structure, which is called as gut, G-U-T, gut. Associated and supplied with some associated organs. So there is a tube-like structure called gut or digestive tract, associated with additional organs. The gut or digestive tract is made up of mouth. It starts from mouth. The next part is pharynx. If you remember the respiratory system, this is a common portion between the respiratory tract and the digestive system. Then from the pharynx, the food enters into the esophagus. So here is the mouth. There is the pharynx here, and then it enters into the esophagus. The esophagus is also called as the food pipe. It is also called as the food pipe. And then it enters into the stomach here, and then it starts its journey into one of the most longest part of the digestive system called the intestines. The intestines are made up of, there are two types of intestine. The one is called as small intestine, the other is called as the large intestine. The small intestine lies very long and convoluted here. Then putting everything into this big thing, the big intestine, this one from here, here, here. And then it enters into the last part of the intestine called rectum. And the last opening is called as the anus. So this is the digestive system, the digestive tract. There are certain other associated organs present with digestive system. The first is called as salivary gland. Sometimes people pronunciate it like salivary glands or whatever. Salivary glands. They are present in the mouth. You can see them. If you raise your tongue and see into the mirror, you will see white loops present below your tongue, and those are salivary glands. And their purpose is to produce saliva. And it is part of the digestive system. It's not a random stuff over there. It is involved in the process of digestion. The next associated organ is the liver. The job of the liver is to produce bile. It's a chemical produced by the liver. The liver is doing another job as well, which we are not studying here. But for the purpose of digestion, liver produces a chemical which is called as bile. And then that bile is stored into a chamber called gallbladder. and then from there, with the help of a duct, all that chemical is poured into the digestive system. We will see these things in detail. I'm just introducing them. Another organ is called as pancreas. It is also associated with the digestive system. There are two jobs pancreas is involved in. Number one, it is involved in the metabolism of the sugar, glucose regulation in the body. That part of pancreas produces insulin. This is not the topic of digestive system, but since the pancreas is here, you should know. If something bad happens with that part of the pancreas, it will not able to produce enough insulin. The glucose metabolism will go mad, and the person will develop a disease which we call as sugar or diabetes. The other part of the pancreas, is involved. The pancreas is somewhere here behind this stomach, somewhere here behind the stomach. Okay. The pancreas produce another chemical. Actually, those chemicals are mixture of enzymes which are responsible for the breakdown of the components of food. If the food is made up of protein, the enzyme will convert those proteins into simpler one, into amino acids. If the food is made up of carbohydrate, those enzymes will convert them into sugar, as I told you earlier. But this process does not happen in once. The big molecules, for example, proteins, first broken down into polypeptide chains. And then the polypeptide chains are broken down into simpler ones. And then the simpler ones were further broken down into amino acids. And then we eventually have those things. So these are the different things. The number one is the gut, the digestive tract, and number two is the associated organs. The process of digestion occurs in two phases, in two ways. The first is called as mechanical digestion. The other is called as chemical digestion, as I explained earlier. In mechanical digestion, the food is broken down into simpler forms mechanically, like we chew the food into the mouth. And we try to break down the food particles into simpler ones. And then the job of the enzyme started. If the food is not broken down well within the duct, within the digestive system, it is difficult for the enzymes to break down that food further. And that is why it is always advised to chew the food very well if you have a perfect, normal digestive system. Otherwise, it will be difficult for the digestive system to break down the food perfectly. The first is physical breakdown and then the chemical breakdown with the help of enzymes. These are the major big macromolecules which are usually converted into simpler ones. The carbohydrates converted into glucose, the proteins are converted into amino acids, and fats are converted into simpler fatty acids. And then all these products will be absorbed by the blood. Okay. How enzymes break down the macromolecules, I just explained in the last slide. That enzymes convert the big components or big fragments, break down them into simpler fragments. Like for example, if this is a protein is made up of so many amino acids. So the enzyme will first break down those proteins into simpler fragments, which are called as polypeptides. The further breakdown or further digestion will end up into amino acids. So this process is called as digestion. And then these amino acids will be consumed by the body, will be absorbed by the body, and then utilized by the body. And you can guess how body will utilize the amino acids, because we need amino acids to create the proteins present in our bodies. For example, hemoglobin is a protein present in the blood cells. Its job is to transport oxygen from one place to another. That is required to be created. It needs amino acids, and those amino acids came from the digestion. Okay, so digestive system or digestion actually starts from the mouth. That's the most traditional understanding. But let me tell you, it actually started before we even starts the process of eating. The digestive system started preparing itself even before we eat anything. It starts when we think about having a food. It's a little bit interesting as well as weird. It starts when we even think about having a food. मुझे खाना खाना है कुछ देर के बाद. Your digestive system will start producing the enzymes which are required for the digestion, because it was waiting. A food will be coming, a food is about to be here, a food is coming. Are you getting my point? So that means if you are going for a dinner, or if you are going to a party, marriage party, शादी हाल में खाना है अच्छा सा, and you are not eating anything for all the day, waiting for the food, and you are thinking a lot about the food. मैं ये भी खा लूँगा, मैं वो भी खा लूँगा, मैं वो भी खा लूँगा, मैं वो भी खा लूँगा, something like that. You are thinking a lot about the food, so you will start producing lots of enzymes in your digestive system and the associated chemicals. Particularly, a chemical which is responsible for the digestion of proteins produced within the stomach, and that is called as pepsin. So lots of pepsin is produced, lots of acid, and that pepsin contains hydrochloric acid, which is an acid. So if you're thinking a lot about the food and the proteins, your stomach will start producing lots of pepsin and acid. But if unluckily you will not be able to eat enough, and that happens usually when we think a lot, we do not eat enough. If you do not able to eat enough, the residual acids present in the stomach called a trouble, which we call as acidity. वो जब शादियों के खाने के बाद लोग बेकरारी की हालत में उधर उधर फिर नहीं रहे होते, ज्यादा खा के लगता है खा लिया कुछ हो रहा है, ज्यादा खा लिया, एसिडिटी हो रही है. That is what we call as acidity. And we think more and you fail to eat that much, so that results in, और ये आमतौर पर इफ्तारी के बाद भी होता है. The next thing, the first thinking, I'm telling you something more, okay, about the digestive system. It starts when we see the food. The next thing is when we see the food, जब हम खुराक को देखते हैं. Okay. The next phase of the digestive system starts from the mouth. When we smell the food. So thinking about the food, by looking at the food, by smelling the food, we are actually analyzing that whether the food should enter into the digestive system or not, whether it is required to eat or not. whether this thing is perfect for eating or not. If any of these things is not correct, is not missing, is not perfect, is not sending you good signals, you will not going to eat it. If it does not smell well, you will stop. It's a wonderful way, wonderful mechanism. You don't know that you are actually analyzing something with the help of the smell. And the last test, that whether you should be able, you should put something into your mouth, into your digestive system or not, is the taste. If the food tastes well, then you will be able to have it. Otherwise, that will be thrown out. And the job is performed by the mouth. The mouth is doing lots of jobs for the digestive system, and actually it's the start point. So the performance of the mouth defines that how well the rest of the process will be. The mouth consists of, there are jaws, cheek muscles, and the tongue, and the teeth. All these components of the mouth are very important for the process of digestion, because together they are grinding the food with the help of the teeth. The tongue and the cheek muscles, they put the food on the teeth, so it should be grinded, and the cheeks and the tongues are playing wonderful job for that purpose. And then there is an associated enzyme producing organ out there, which is called as salivary gland. The job of the salivary gland is to produce saliva. Saliva contains an enzyme called amylase, and this enzyme digests the carbohydrates present in the food. Only carbohydrates, no protein, no lipids. So what that means? If the food is made up of carbohydrates, you are mechanically grinding it into simpler components, and then with the help of saliva, you are converting the carbohydrates into simpler ones. Now, if the food is made up of only carbohydrates, think about a food which is made up of only carbohydrate. The answer is cotton candy, जिसको उर्दू में लच्छा कहते हैं. आपको कभी उसको निगलने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है. When you place that cotton candy into your mouth, it is digested immediately. Why? Because the salivary glands produce amylase, which is an enzyme which is good enough to digest the carbohydrates present in the cotton candy. If the food is made up of big carbohydrates and other components, the grinding and saliva mixing with saliva will create the ball of food. Those balls of food are called as bolus. It's a very synchronized activity by the teeth, by the jaws, and with the help of the saliva. So saliva, food, and then grinding results in the creation of those small balls, which are called as bolus, Those bolus were then pushed into the next part of the digestive system. The mouth contains very important components like teeth, and I told you the jaws, the muscles of the jaws, हम बहुत ग्रांटेड लेते हैं इनको, लेकिन ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट काम करते हैं. अगर आप कभी इस एक्टिविटी को इमेजिन करें ना कि किस तरीके से ये फूड को ना सिर्फ ग्राइंड करता है, but also mixing the food with the saliva so that it will become lubricant, more easier to be for its travel in the next part of the digestive system. And also, it's not only mechanically digesting the food, but also the enzyme called amylase present in the saliva that enzyme is chemically converting the carbohydrate into simpler one as well. So a lot of things are going on in the mouth. And one indirectly the mouth is also involved in making a selection about the food by sensing what's out there. If any hard particle, a stone or a bone particle is there, our mouth can sense it and we can remove. So it should not go to the next or more sensitive part of our digestive system. So after the action of the mouth, that is converted into the balls, which called as bolus. Those ball-like structures called as bolus, they are thrown into the next part of the digestive system. The teeth itself are of different kinds, and because of the nature of the teeth, we can guess the nature of the food an organism is having. Those organisms which has the teeth like this, the flat ones, they use to cut the things. These teeth are called as incisors, and incisors are present squirrel, गिलहरियों में होते हैं, bunnies में होते हैं, and all those animals which are dependent on the plants only for their food, called herbivores. They carry the incisors. The other type of teeth present in the mouth are called as canines. Canines are like pointed teeth present in the animals and the organisms which are dependent on other animals for the food. Goshtkhor, Masahari, or called as the carnivores. And then there are teeth which are quite flatter from their surface. They are used, the premolars and the molars, to grind the food well. Since humans can eat plants as well as animals, so we are carrying the incisors as well as the canine. We are carrying both type of teeth. Such organisms are called as omnivorous. So we are omnivorous. Humans are omnivorous. Another example of an omnivorous organism is the crow. Crow is also an omnivorous. It can eat the meat as well as the plants. So after all that job, the food is converted into small balls called bolus, and then it is thrown into the next part, which is called as the pharynx. Now remember, the pharynx, as I told you earlier, in the respiratory system, the pharynx is connected with two systems. The one is the respiratory system. The trachea is entering into the lungs. The other one is the food pipe or esophagus, which is entering into the stomach. You need to remember one thing. There is a lid. There is a lid present on the opening of the trachea. So the tract which is entering into the lungs has a lid on it. That lid is called as epiglottis. When the food enters into the pharynx, the epiglottis protects, ये मैंने पहले बताया हुआ, सिर्फ repeat कर रहा हूँ. The epiglottis protects the food and the water to enter into the trachea. So it should slip down into the food pipe. Once the food is there at the opening of the food pipe, it will rush because of the muscular action of the food pipe into the stomach. The food travels very fast from the pharynx into the stomach through this food pipe. Very, very fast, because of the movement of the walls of esophagus. And that movement is called as peristalsis. The peristalsis is the muscular movement of the walls of the esophagus, as a result of which we are able to transfer the food from the pharynx into the stomach. Let me try to draw that thing to explain to you that how peristalsis actually happen. इसके बाद the lecture is done. Okay, then stomach से हम बाद में पढ़ेंगे. So this is the food pipe. When the bolus or the ball of food touches the esophagus, it rushes in a very fast speed. Oh my God. It rushes with a very fast speed into the stomach. Stomach is somewhere here. Okay, stomach is here. So that ball of food will rush very fast into the esophagus. How it happens? The muscles present just below the food pipe, this one and this one, the muscles present below the food pipe, मैंने direction गलत बना दी इसकी. The muscles present below the food, below the bolus, they expanded in this direction. Okay, I'm sorry. The muscles, once again I'm repeating, the muscles present below the food bolus expanded, and the muscles present above the food bolus contracted. The contraction of those muscles and expansion of those muscles results in the forward movement of the bolus to the next phase. The bolus reaches here. Once the bolus reaches to the next phase, these muscles contract, which are above the bolus, and now the lower muscles expand themselves like this. And then it pushes the food one step further. When the bolus reaches here, the same cycle repeats itself. So in the food pipe, there is like a wave-like movement of muscles in a very synchronized way, which pushes the bolus very fast into the esophagus, and it pours everything into the next part of the digestive system, which is called as the stomach. I hope this should understand. I hope this will help you to understand. If the mechanism is reversed, when I said mechanism is reversed, for example, this is the bolus. If these muscle or the muscle contraction, relaxation go out of sync, if these contract and these muscle relaxed, what will happen? Instead of moving down, the bolus will move to the upward direction. So whatever present in the stomach will be thrown out of the body. Such a movement is called as anti-peristalsis movement, and that results in the vomiting, and this is called as vomiting. Okay, so this is it for today about the digestive system, and then we will study the next organs and next part of the digestive system on Friday to complete that chapter. Okay, जी Solomon.
सर आपने बताया था कि मसल जब हम लाइक अगर फूड का एक बाइट लेते हैं तो एक्सपेंड होते हैं मसल. तो सर जब आप लें कि अगर कोई बाइट जब गले में स्टक हो जाता है तो तब क्यों नहीं एक्सपेंड करते, मतलब एक रिफ्लेक्स एक्शन क्यों नहीं आता कि ब्रेन को कोई मैसेज आ रहा है कि फूड स्टक हो गया है, वो जब तक हम फिर अगर पानी या कोई लिक्विड ना लें तब तक वो नीचे नहीं जाता, वो क्यों नहीं ब्रेन को मैसेज क्यों नहीं जाता?
एक्चुअली फूड एसोफेगस में बहुत कम स्टक होता है. इट ईदर गोज टू स्टमक और इट गोज आउट ऑफ द बॉडी थ्रू माउथ. वहां पर नहीं रहता है आमतौर पर. वो जिसको हम कहते हैं ना पंजाबी में उथू लग जाना, वो जो गले में फूड फंस जाती है, खांसी आती है, आप उसी की बात कर रहे हैं ना?
जी 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 सर.
अगर आप उसकी बात कर रहे हैं तो इट हैपन्स व्हेन यू आर ईटिंग एंड यू आर टॉकिंग, or you are moving, or you are exercising and you are eating. When you are eating, the epiglottis should close the trachea. Okay, am I right? The epiglottis should close the trachea so that no food should enter into the respiratory system. But when you take a breath, जब आप सांस लेते हैं, the epiglottis should turn the trachea on, so the air can go into the respiratory system. Now imagine if you are eating and you are talking, The talking required exchange of gases. If you are eating and you are talking, what will happen? The food will enter into the trachea, and that creates a chaos out there in the pharynx. जब तक वो क्लियर नहीं हो जाता पूरा पोर्शन, तब तक वो जोर लगाता रहता है, खांसी आती रहती है. खांसी आती है इसलिए है ताकि वो पोर्शन क्लियर हो. इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट.
थैंक यू सर.
ओके, एक और भी ट्रबल होती है, वो टेक्निकली जरा मुश्किल है लेकिन बहुत सारे लोगों को होती है. वो सोलोमन के सवाल से जुड़ी हुई है थोड़ी सी इनडायरेक्टली, कि कुछ लोगों को निगलने में ट्रबल होती है और उसकी वजह होती है द gases which are produced in the stomach. They created an environment that it is difficult for you to engulf or to put the food into the stomach, and that is because of the gases. And gases produced in the stomach because of the overproduction of acids most of the time. जी
सर, जो ईटिंग डिसऑर्डर्स होते हैं क्या वो साइकोलॉजिकल होते हैं या उनका मतलब फिजिकली भी डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम में कोई प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है जिसकी वजह से वो होते हैं?
जो डाइटरी हैबिट्स डिसऑर्डर्स हैं वो बड़े कॉम्प्लेक्स हैं. I believe the person is very lucky if it is because of the troubles in the digestive system only. There are many different types of disorders, physical disorders which are associated with the digestive system. Like the stomachs are not contracting well, the stomach is not producing enough enzymes, so it is not able to digest the proteins well. The intestines are not provided with enough enzyme. The water is absorbed a lot, results in constipation. The water is not absorbed enough, results in diarrhea. We will see those things. So there are several troubles associated with different components of the digestive system, like the opening of the stomach is not regulated well, so it is difficult for the stomach to keep the food. ऐसे लोग बहुत वॉमिट करते हैं, उनको नोजिया रहता है अक्सर. So there are many troubles, and the dietary habits are linked with the dysfunction or dysregularity or I must say malfunctioning of any of the organs of the digestive system. ये होता है. But having said that, the food and digestive system, ये बड़ी अजीब बात है लेकिन ये बिल्कुल दुरुस्त है यार, रखना ये साइंटिफिकली करेक्ट है. The digestive system and the function of the organs of the digestive system is connected with the psychological stability of human beings. वो इंसान की जो नफ्सियाती mental health है उसके साथ जुड़ी हुई है. I don't know how many of you people will agree with me, but you can share your experience after turning your microphone on. It asks you and other people. When you are not feeling good, when you are in stress, it is difficult for you to digest the food, or you might be eating the food a lot. दोनों होते हैं. कुछ लोगों को स्ट्रेस में बहुत भूख लगती है और कुछ लोगों की भूख खत्म हो जाती है. Associated. And some of you might have that experience that when the person is not able to digest a food well, he started developing the headache. So he ate something which does not go nice in the stomach, and it started creating headache until unless that unfortunate thing goes outside the body. So it is attached with the psychological emotional well-being as well, the food. Ji. If you want to add any comment, please go ahead. No? Okay. So Fazila is... जी. फाजिला पहले आई, मीट दे रहे, फाजिला को बोले. फाजिला बोले.
सर, जैसे हम किसी फूड का इंटेक करते हैं जो पूरा कार्बोहाइड्रेट है, आपने एग्जांपल दी कॉटन कैंडी की, सलाइवा मतलब सलाइवा की हेल्प से उसको बिल्कुल भी हमें क्या कहते हैं मुश्किल नहीं होती उसकी इंटेक. तो सर इसमें हम फिर कार्बोहाइड्रेट से एनर्जी कैसे यूटिलाइज करते हैं? नहीं,
माउथ में अगर फूड में सिर्फ कार्बोहाइड्रेट हो जैसा कि कॉटन कैंडी में होता है तो वो खत्म नहीं हो जाता. That carbohydrate is converted into simpler components called glucose and then absorbed by the mouth and the other associated things. It is absorbed, converted into glucose. So digestion is done where? In the mouth. And once it is done, it is eventually ended up into the bloodstream. वो food के साथ चलता जाएगा, saliva के साथ जाएगा अगले portion में, and eventually absorbed by the blood. But the thing is that it's not destroyed, it is digested.
थैंक यू सर।
ठीक है जी, मीर आपकी बारी है।
सर एक बात तो ये है कि मतलब अगर कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स के छोटे मॉलिक्यूल्स होंगे तो तब भी माउथ में कंप्लीटली वो अब्सॉर्ब होंगे, बड़े मॉलिक्यूल्स तो नहीं हो पाएंगे ना, वो तो एट द एंड स्टमक में जाते होंगे। तो सेकेंडली सर हम इनको सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी कंसीडर करते हैं, हालांकि हम देखते हैं कि ऑक्सीजन का जो प्राइमरी वर्क होता है वो सिर्फ बर्निंग होता है, यानी बेसिकली प्रोटीन्स, कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स और फैट्स वगैरह को ये एनर्जी में तब्दील करता है। तो फिर हम इसे सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी क्यों कहते हैं? इसे मतलब इसका रोल तकरीबन एंजाइम से मिलता जुलता होता है कि ये प्रोसेस को हेल्प कर रहा होता है, बर्निंग के प्रोसेस को, तो फिर हम इसे सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी क्यों कहते हैं? और यहाँ इसका कोई बॉडी में और भी फंक्शन है?
मैं ना आपके माइक्रोफोन की वजह से बहुत अच्छे से आपका क्वेश्चन नहीं ले पाया हूं, लेकिन जो मुझे समझ आया, अगर मैं सवाल गलत समझूं तो मुझे करेक्ट कर दीजिएगा। ओके, अगर आप रिपीट कर सकते हैं तो रिपीट कर लें मीर।
तो मैं रिपीट कर देता हूँ सर।
हाँ जी,
तो आवाज आपको ठीक आ रही है?
हाँ अब ठीक आ रही है।
सर मैं ये पूछना चाह रहा हूँ कि जो ऑक्सीजन होती है वो बेसिकली मॉलिक्यूल्स को ब्रेक डाउन करने में हेल्प करती है, बर्निंग के प्रोसेस में हेल्प करती है, जो मतलब कार्बोहाइड्रेट वगैरह होते हैं इनको एनर्जी में कन्वर्ट करती है। तो फिर हम इसको सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी क्यों कंसीडर करते हैं? या इसका खूब बॉडी में और भी फंक्शन है? मतलब ऐसे महसूस होता है जो ऑक्सीजन है वो तकरीबन एंजाइम जैसा रोल प्ले करती है, तो फिर इसको सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी क्यों कहते हैं? क्योंकि ये एक्चुअली तो कुछ प्रोड्यूस नहीं करती, सिर्फ बर्निंग में हेल्प करती है।
ओके सॉरी, डोंट गेट स्केर्ड, मेरा गला खुश्क है बस। ऑक्सीजन एंजाइम की तरह की इसलिए नहीं होती है बिकॉज एंजाइम स्टेज अनचेंज्ड इन अ केमिकल रिएक्शन। एंजाइम एक कैटलिस्ट होता है और उसकी अमाउंट पे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता ड्यूरिंग द केमिकल रिएक्शन। ऑक्सीजन फिजिकली टेक पार्ट लेती है, फिजिकली कंट्रीब्यूट करती है इन द केमिकल रिएक्शन with the food to produce energy. So without oxygen, that food will not going to convert into the product because oxygen physically involved in the food to produce energy. It's a chemical reaction, it's not an enzyme. So it's part of that process. Like if there is a gas, sui gas out there, and there is no oxygen out there, you will not be able to burn the sui gas at all. When you push the accelerator of the motorbike, you are opening the window in the carburetor to allow oxygen to go into your motorbike's engine. And that is the place where fuel and oxygen mix together and then it got burned. If you do not send the oxygen into the engine, that fuel will not be burned because it is physically react with the fuel. So it's not an enzyme. जी, दूसरा क्वेश्चन क्या था? Hope this answered the question, okay?
सर दूसरा ये था कि फिर मतलब इसको हम सोर्स ऑफ एनर्जी क्यों कंसीडर करते हैं? सिर्फ ये क्यों नहीं कहते कि इट हेल्प्स बर्निंग द फूड?
जी मैंने जो लफ्ज
और भी बाद में फंक्शन है।
हेल्प्स नहीं करते, मैंने जो वर्ड इस्तेमाल किया था वो पार्टनर का वर्ड इस्तेमाल किया था कि ये फूड का पार्टनर है। That's what the word I have used. So the oxygen is essentially required for the process of respiration, essential component. So if oxygen is not there, it is not possible to get maximum energy out of the food. That does not mean without oxygen we will not be able to produce energy, but we will not be able to produce efficient form of energy. ठीक है?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. If we don't have any question, we can conclude our class then. Okay.